Hi, I'm James Kotecki. You're here with me in the C-Space studio at CES 2020. Joining us is Cathy from Samsung Ads, the Global Head of Marketing and Analytics. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you for having me.
For being here. So I've interviewed numerous people from Samsung Ads, but I always like to start with people kind of defining their own brands. So can you please define what Samsung Ads is?
Sure. So Samsung Ads is an advanced TV advertising platform. It's built on the largest and most powerful source of TV data, encompassing about 45 million smart TVs in the US alone. And what we do for brands and advertisers is that we provide a holistic view of the entire video ecosystem. And it allows advertisers to plan, execute, and prove their TV investments.
So from what I understand, you're basically using data from Samsung devices, but you're not necessarily, the people that use that data aren't necessarily just advertising on Samsung
That's
devices.
absolutely right.
Is that right?
You know, that's an interesting question that you ask. You know, most people think that ACR, automatic content recognition, is actually used just for advertising, but in fact, it was originally used and still is for smart recommendations. So Samsung Smart TVs are known for content discovery. We're probably the best platform to do that across OTT as well as linear and cable. And so we use that to really power our recommendations.
So let's talk ACR, automated content recognition. Talk to me a little bit more about how that works and how that helps advertisers. Basically, it's recognizing what's on the screen, like what I'm watching.
Absolutely right. So ACR, it's de-identified data. It allows us to really see the viewing behavior that's on the TVs. So think about it from linear to cable to switching over to AVOD or SVOD, and we're able to really see the user behavior. And one of the things that's really fascinating about that is that when you start to tie all of those insights together, you start identifying what I'll call connected home viewing behavior. Yeah.
And do you see interesting trends there, maybe things that are counterintuitive in how people actually behave versus how you might assume they behave?
Oh, absolutely. You know, last year at Advertising Week New York, we actually released a study around platform surfing. So that's our term for the behavior that we're seeing today, which is really interesting. We're starting to see that across linear, AVOD, SVOD, the viewership is just happening across the board, and it's happening without even a thought process. It's really based on content. So as we're looking at that, you know, linear is of course still on the rise. It's still 20% more viewing time than I would say streaming. But within streaming, SVOD has been around for a while. There's been a lot of investments there. But AVOD is really where I recommend marketers to take a look at. You know, it accounts for about 40% of the entire streaming time viewed.
So spell those acronyms for us, SVOD, AVOD.
Oh, sure. It's advertising video on demand and then subscription video on demand.
And so this is interesting because I think people might imagine that we're going toward a world where everyone cuts the cord, everyone just pays for a subscription to a couple streaming services, maybe I get something that I can get my live sports, and I never need to see an ad ever again. You're saying that's absolutely not true.
It's not the case, and in fact, you know, we're actually seeing that ads that are positioned within AVOD, it's actually showing great ROI on that. And one of the things that we're really looking at is what are the types of creatives that should be put within AVOD versus linear versus what you're going to put on your mobile phone or laptop in all the exchanges.
And so, give me an example of that. Like, what would it mean for a creator to create something, an advertisement for those different types of viewing experiences?
Sure. So, you know, it really depends on what I'll say is the viewing behavior of that household. So, for instance, if you have a cord-cutting home and they are on an AVOD service, one of the things you may want to consider is putting multiple creatives on an AVOD platform. So that way there are, you know, a less friction around frequency. We are able to give better exposure. But I'll also give you another example. If you have a household that is perhaps a sports enthusiast, right? And maybe more fintech and, you know, advertising focused, if you will, you may want to tailor it a little differently from your TV screen versus what you're going to be getting on mobile where you can take some action.
How much more targeted can advertising realistically become? Because at some point we're going to approach a limit, right? Where everything is exactly targeted to me, or at least everything that I feel comfortable with being targeted to me. How far are we along that path?
Well, if we break it down by platform, or let's say by device level, when you're looking at the smart TV, it still is a household device, right? So one of the things that we do value is the privacy aspects of that, but we do look to tailor it to perhaps the household composition. If you have, you know, a teenager at home, or if you're a big online spender, or if you may be a viewer of drama, how do you really tailor the ads to that need? I think that it's more about less about just who you're targeting it to, but when. So think about day parting. Think about how frequently and at what point do you want to be reaching those consumers.
Yeah, Samsung Ads has a report with a great title called TVs Biggest Moment is Now. What does that mean? Explain that report.
Right, so we are so excited about that. You know, we released it in 2018, but we've had great momentum around that report. And we identified an audience called Total TV Watcher. So Total TV Watcher is a unique audience where they are viewing more of linear as well as OTT. You know, we've noted that, you know, there's been predictions of linear dying completely, and that's just not the case. But we are seeing behavior, as I mentioned, platform surfing across multiple different services. And Total TV Watcher has been our sweet spot at Samsung Ads.
Another thing that you personally published was an article called, I love this title even more, the counterintuitive yet perfectly obvious way marketers should look at advanced TV.
Yes.
So do tell.
Well, you know, I think that oftentimes with technological advances, it can be quite overwhelming for marketers, but when you really look to it, you know, we're still trying to reach consumers in their, I guess, native environment, if you will. And right now, I have to just keep reiterating that AVOD is absolutely on the rise, which is why Samsung actually launched our AVOD platform itself called Samsung TV Plus on our own services with over 90 channels that are free.
Do you think that is in some ways an antidote or a response to the fact that people are going to start getting, you know, bogged down with so many subscription platforms? If everything is, if AVOD supported, advertising supported,
Sure.
Now I don't have to worry about paying for 16 different streaming service subscriptions if I can just skip between platforms, as you're saying.
I think this is an interesting time. I mean, you see Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN, the package there, and you also see all of the different SVOD services. The reality is right now, at the end of the day, consumers just want content. And if they can get their content available free with no strings attached, which happens to be our tagline for Samsung TV Plus, then even better. Yeah.
We're talking with Cathy of Samsung Ads. I spoke previously with your colleague Michael Scott from Samsung Ads, and we talked about the definition of television and how that's changing. This is a question I love coming back to with people in your industry.
Sure.
What is the definition of TV? How is it changing? And does it really matter?
Oh, that last part is a good one. TV is changing in terms of viewership. It is everywhere. I mean, we have consumers watching linear, SVOD, AVOD, as I noted to you before. But I think the important piece here is that, does it really matter? I think it matters for marketers if you know how to reach them. But at the end of the day, consumers are looking for content that is engaging. They're looking for content that is relevant. And whether that is served over the top or through your set-top box, I think at the end of the day, it's the consumer's choice.
So you're talking about different devices there, a set-top box, and obviously you're part of Samsung as a giant company, and they have a huge presence here at CES every year. Does that relationship to Samsung overall give you unique insights about the kinds of screens or the kinds of devices that are going to be coming up where people are going to be viewing all this content?
Well, it's interesting. So, you know, through ACR, as I mentioned before, automatic content recognition, we do see all of the behavior that is happening on the screen. That's inclusive of linear set-top box content, as well as what is being engaged on OTT apps. But also think about gaming. You know, everything that is connected through your TV, we have the ability to really observe that with consumers' consent, of course. And it only provides for a better discovery experience on your smart TV.
And just as somebody out there may be watching this and be like, well, isn't TV all connected, and why do I need to like look at the screen to recognize what's on the screen to figure that data out? Why can't I just kind of get that data coming in on the back end? Why isn't it integrated that way? So why is that kind of recognition
If it was
important?
that easy, I think everyone would already have the solution.
Yeah.
I think one of the unique positions where Samsung Ads is in is that we have the scale, right? So we have the devices that are out there, it's actually over 45 million TVs in the US alone, about 70 globally. And off of those TVs, you know, we have disparate data across the industry. So if you look at set-top box data, you know, what's happening within the app's engagement, what's happening on PlayStation and other gaming devices, but think of one organization that has that holistic platform. That's going to be Samsung Ads. And I'll add one more note to that. You know, here at CES, we've been really positioning Samsung as it's been our theme this year is stop piloting, start proving. And it's really the idea of, you know, it's no longer about test budgets and, you know, experiential, you know, campaigns. We are actually in the business across brands and media and entertainment companies where we are proving attribution and ROI. You know? And
is that a message to people here at CES generally? Like stop highlighting your cool prototype projects and start proving that you can actually deliver the goods?
And you're going to see that this is just the launch. It's actually going to extend throughout 2020. Last year was start with Samsung Ads, and you know what? A lot of companies actually did, and we have proven successful long campaigns with them.
Is there a question that you would like to ask one of your industry peers?
You know, there's been so many that I've already asked this week alone. And, you know, one that comes to mind is, you know, in the world of, let's say, the connected home, you see smart TVs and mobile devices and laptops, but I am curious to brand marketers in specific, how much will, let's say, other smart devices play an important role in your marketing campaign, whether it is smart fridges or connected home living assistants?
Well, Cathy O, Samsung Ads, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you
here
for having me
in the
again.
C-Space studio. Great to have you. And it's great to have you watching. I'm James Kotecki, your host here in the C-Space studio at CES 2020. Keep it right here because more great conversations with marketing and media leaders are just ahead.